My school's library is open until around 2 in the morning for the idiots like me who don't do their essays until the last minute. It is a pretty small building and most of the books are in the basement area called the stacks. Just to give you a quick layout, there is the big main stairs that go down to the stacks, a vending machine room, and the long hallway with 4 entrances into the stacks. The stacks are 2 really big rooms on opposite sides of the hallway with a huge amount of bookshelves and study desks lining the walls. I was there around 11 p.m. last year. It was a pretty research-intense essay, so I was down in the stacks working in one of the study desks. So I did not have to keep going upstairs and downstairs again. I had been there for maybe 2 hours and everyone except for a boy working a few desks down from me had left already. I was pretty zoned out by this point. It was an 8 a.m. class, so I did not have much time until it was due. And I was sort of panicking, so it really pissed me off when I heard someone flipping through book pages really fast to make them do that loud whirr noise at the other end of the room. I sort of ignored it for a while, thinking they would go away eventually, but they just kept doing it. After about 5 minutes, I got sick of it and started to walk over to tell them to knock it off. I got about 3 steps across the room and it just stopped. I sat back down and it was quiet again for like 10 more minutes before the flipping pages noise started again, only loads louder, like they had grabbed a huge book that time. The boy started to get pissed off too, and he stood up and started walking through the bookshelves trying to find them. It keeps going, so I got up too and started looking around with him. It got really loud and it was pretty obvious where it was coming from by that point. So we started walking towards it. He was on one side of the shelves and I was on the other. We walked all the way down the shelves, no one there. We had not seen anyone come in the stacks and we were on the side of the room with the entrances. No way could anyone have come in without us seeing them. The noise stopped again and we both just sort of slowly walked back to our seats. I assumed it was just a fan or something in the other room, and I really needed to get my essay done. We sat down and immediately the noise started again. It sounded like it was coming from right next to the guy's chair. He shoved his stuff in his bag, looked at me, said, "F this," and took off. I was out of there maybe 5 seconds behind him. I still won't go back in the stacks at night even when there is other people down there. No essays worth getting murdered by a weird book ghost. I'm not a teacher myself, but my best friend works as a teaching assistant in a small primary school. She used to tell me about a little boy who would constantly give death stares to teachers and would generally refuse to interact with other children. My friend absolutely loves kids, but even she admitted she had never seen a child look so angry all of the time, like he hated the world even though he was so young. He would face the wall during class time and repeatedly bash his head against the wall until staff intervened. He started biting a lot of the children and was told off for doing so in the dining hall one day. He then jabbed the dinner lady in the arm with his fork so hard that it drew blood. In my friend's classroom, they had a small incubator with little chicks that the children would help to look after and watch as they grew up. At one point, he was left unattended and managed to squeeze one of the poor chicks to death. I don't know what ever happened with him because my friend got a job at another school, but the story has always stuck in my mind. The way she described him genuinely gave me chills. I'm gonna preface this by saying I went to boarding school for 6 years. This boarding school was in the middle of a one-stoplight town and on a hill 800 feet up. The school used to be an old monastery. It was hundreds of years old and huge with 4 stories, including a basement where there was a boiler room and long hallways. Not all of these stories happened to myself, but the people who told me them were reliable enough to believe. Also, the school did not want us telling stories to other people because they were afraid that it would make them not want to go to school due to it being haunted. The first one happened to me. I used to be in charge of cleaning the gymnasium at night. Every student had a job that they had to do either at night or in the morning to help take care of the school. It taught you some practical things and all. Anyway, I was there by myself that night getting ready to start sweeping the gym. The gym had 2 floors to it. The upstairs part was the weightlifting area and you could see it fully from the bottom part of the gym and where the basketball court was. As I stepped into the gym, one of the basketballs started rolling a bit. I look around to see if any doors are open. None are. I chalk it up to randomness but see that it is continuing to roll. As I watch it, it makes a full circle around the entire gym and stops right next to my feet. At this point, I'm a bit scared but figured it was nothing. I heard a creaking coming from the second floor and looked up. There is a girl there, just staring right at me. As soon as I made direct eye contact with her, she bolts to the stairs that would take her to me. She let out a scream that I cannot describe. I was terrified and froze in place. Thankfully, she did not come to me but took a left and bolted through the main doors of the gym. They did not open. She just went right through them. There was a chapel that was in the middle of the school. There is a non-religious school, so we used it for musical performances and all that sort of stuff. I was in choir for the years that I was there, so I was very used to performing in it. There was stained glass on all of the windows and such. Every time you walked in there, it always felt as if someone was watching you. It wasn't only me, but there were multiple people who felt that way. There was a big grand piano that was on the opposite side of where you walked in. That was our stage. People would go in there at night and practice on it or just play for fun. Most people would just go in there and only turn on the stage lights and leave the rest off while they were practicing. This story isn't something that I witnessed, but a friend of mine. She was playing on the piano by herself and just having fun practicing, while in the middle of a song, the keys next to her started going up and down as if trying to add another part to her song. She jokingly said, "Hey, stop, that doesn't go with what I'm doing." She immediately felt as if someone has boxed her ear and she became really dizzy. She freaked out and bolted out of there. She came crying down to the area where all the students hung out on their free time. She told me and a few friends the story. It took quite a while to get her to calm down. Many people have seen a girl in a white dress constantly roaming that area. A job I had around the school was preparing the salad bar we had for lunch and dinner. To do this, I would have to get out everything we would need for the day from the basement in the giant freezer we had down there. I would then have to wash it and cut, peel everything. I was one of the first people up every morning to do this job. I would get up at about 6 a.m. to do this every day. I got up at about 6. As soon as I woke up, I was feeling uneasy. I quickly took my shower and got dressed so I could get to the lunchroom at about 6:30. The person in charge of the kitchen was already up and getting everything warmed up. I said hello and checked out what we would need. I made a list and headed down. Now that feeling of uneasiness was there the whole time, through my whole shower, walking the dark hallways in the morning, and even when I got to the kitchen. I opened the freezer and felt the cold blast of air. Needless to say, I could have cut diamonds with how cold it was. I stepped inside and started getting vegetables. As I was reaching for one, I heard a giggle. This wasn't a normal one, but like a small child's giggle. I instantly froze and whipped around. No one. I brushed it off and continued. Another giggle. I was like, no effing way. This is not happening to me. Flick lights go off in the freezer. I still had a bit of light because I left the door open. I start seeing the door close and it locks from the outside. I pulled for the door because I knew I would be locked in there for at least 15 minutes with the lights off if I did not. I caught it right before it closed. Again, I hear the giggle. This time it was right behind me. I screamed. I was 17 and screamed like a girl. I ran upstairs, told the guy I wasn't feeling well, and went and hid in my room until everyone else got up that morning.